The Japanese tycoon stepped out of the sleek black car and looked around at the grand entrance of the hotel. The building was tall and impressive, with glass doors that reflected the morning sun. He adjusted his suit and took a deep breath. Traveling was not new to him, but something about this place felt different. It was a foreign land, and he knew that communication could be tricky. As he entered, the lobby staff greeted him with smiles and bows, but their words were confusing. He tried to answer politely, but he could tell from their puzzled looks that his English was not enough to explain his requests. He wanted a quiet room on a high floor with a view, a soft mattress, and his favorite tea waiting in the room. Simple requests in his mind, yet it felt impossible to get them understood. He followed the bellhop who carried his bags. The elevator ride was silent except for the occasional beep. The tycoon observed the staff carefully, noting their gestures and facial expressions. They were trying, but he could feel a barrier that went beyond language. Every time he attempted to clarify, their smiles stayed polite but empty, and he could sense the small frustration building in them. He took a deep breath and reminded himself to stay calm. Traveling often required patience, and he was used to challenges. Meanwhile, in the hotel restaurant, a young waitress was arranging plates on the counter. She moved quickly but noticed the unusual tension in the lobby. Curious, she peeked through the glass doors and saw the man in the suit talking to the front desk staff. She had seen many guests come and go, but something about this man made her stop. He seemed polite and calm, yet there was a faint frustration in his eyes. She wondered what was going on. The waitress continued with her work but kept an ear out for the conversation. She had learned some Japanese in school and liked practicing it whenever she could. She remembered her lessons with a smile and thought about how interesting it would be to use it in real life. The thought crossed her mind that perhaps she could help someone if she ever got the chance. Up in his room, the tycoon tried to settle in. He unpacked his briefcase, checked his laptop, and organized some papers. The room was large and luxurious, but it did not feel quite right. The tea was not the brand he liked, and the pillows were too firm. He called the front desk and tried to explain again, but the conversation was frustrating. Words were failing him and he felt a little anxious. He wished someone could understand him without so many misunderstandings. Back in the restaurant, the waitress was cleaning tables and noticed the bellhop carrying trays up the elevator. She recognized the man from the lobby. Something told her that he might be having trouble communicating. She paused, listening to snippets of conversation from other staff who were walking past. They were trying to help, but their words didn't seem to make sense to him. The tycoon decided to step out and have breakfast in the hotel restaurant. He wanted to observe the place, maybe relax for a moment before his busy day. As he entered, heads turned slightly. Some guests were curious, and some staff whispered quietly among themselves. The waitress noticed him immediately and felt a spark of recognition. She had learned enough Japanese to make short conversations, and something told her that today might be the right moment to use it. The tycoon looked at the menu, but reading it in English was slow and uncomfortable. He wanted to order specific dishes, but he worried that the kitchen might not understand his preferences. He tried pointing and using gestures, but it wasn't the same. He felt a little embarrassed, realizing that even simple communication could be so challenging. He hoped that someone would understand his needs. The waitress took a deep breath and walked toward him. She smiled politely and asked, in Japanese, if he needed help. The tycoon froze for a moment, surprised to hear his language spoken in this foreign country. Relief washed over him, and a small smile appeared on his face. He nodded, grateful that someone finally understood. The waitress patiently listened as he explained what he wanted, asking clarifying questions when needed. She repeated back his requests to make sure everything was correct. The other staff watched quietly, astonished at how quickly the atmosphere changed. The tycoon's posture relaxed, and his tone became warm. He joked lightly with the waitress, and she responded with a cheerful laugh. What had been tense and confusing a few minutes ago was now a smooth and pleasant exchange. The breakfast was ordered perfectly, and the tycoon felt a sense of comfort that had been missing since he arrived. Throughout the meal, the waitress continued to check on him discreetly, making sure he had everything he needed. tycoon, in turn, shared small pieces of conversation about his travels, his experiences, and his thoughts on the city. The language barrier no longer felt like a wall but a challenge that had been beautifully overcome. By the time he finished breakfast, the tycoon felt a sense of gratitude toward the waitress. Her willingness to speak Japanese, her patience, and her attention to detail had transformed his stay. He realized that such small acts could make a huge difference, especially in a place where he felt like a stranger. The waitress returned to her duties but kept an eye on him, making sure that all his needs were met. She felt proud of herself but remained humble, enjoying the simple joy of helping someone who needed it. She had no idea that this interaction would be remembered long after the breakfast was over. The tycoon left the restaurant feeling lighter and more relaxed. He knew that his stay at this hotel, which began with confusion and frustration, had now turned into a pleasant experience, thanks to the small kindness of a young waitress. The staff, inspired by what they had witnessed, started paying more attention to the details of guest service, realizing that sometimes communication went beyond words. It was about understanding, empathy, and care. As he walked back to his room, the tycoon thought about the journey ahead. He had meetings and plans to attend, but he carried with him the memory of someone who had bridged a gap between cultures, languages, and expectations. He felt optimistic, knowing that even in a foreign land, there were people willing to connect, to understand, and to help. And so, the first day of his stay ended with a quiet but meaningful interaction. The tycoon felt at ease, and the waitress returned to her routine with a sense of satisfaction. Though the story had just begun, the bond created in that brief breakfast set the stage for something memorable, something that would touch both their lives in unexpected ways. After breakfast, the Japanese tycoon returned to his room feeling relieved. The tension of the morning had lifted slightly, and he was grateful for the young waitress who had understood him so well. He unpacked his briefcase again, this time with a sense of calm, and prepared for the day ahead. Meetings, calls, and plans awaited him, but he felt more focused knowing that at least one person in this unfamiliar place could communicate with him. The waitress continued her work in the restaurant, but she could not stop thinking about the interaction. It had been a small moment, but it felt meaningful. She realized that understanding someone and helping them feel comfortable could make a big difference. Her curiosity about the tycoon grew. She wondered about his travels, his life, and why he had chosen this hotel. For now, she focused on her work but kept an eye out for him, ready to assist again if needed. Later in the morning, the tycoon decided to explore the hotel a little. He walked through the hallways, observing the artwork, the architecture, and the quiet elegance of the place. He noticed small details, like the way the lights reflected off the polished floors and how the staff moved gracefully through their duties. Despite the luxurious surroundings, he still felt a little isolated. He longed for someone who could not only understand his words but also his needs and preferences. Meanwhile, the waitress prepared for the lunch shift. She arranged tables, checked that utensils were polished, and made sure everything looked perfect. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the morning. She remembered the way the tycoon's face had relaxed when she spoke Japanese, and it gave her a sense of pride. She understood that what she did was simple, but for him it had mattered a lot. As lunch hour began, the restaurant started filling with guests. The tycoon entered quietly, greeted by polite smiles and nods from the staff. He was glad to see the waitress, who immediately approached him with a cheerful bow. She asked if he would like something from the menu, and he responded in Japanese, explaining his preferences for certain dishes. She listened carefully, noting every detail, and reassured him that everything would be prepared exactly as he liked. The interaction drew the attention of other staff members. They observed how smoothly the conversation went when someone spoke the same language. The tycoon, usually reserved and quiet, seemed more relaxed. He joked lightly with the waitress, sharing a few personal thoughts about his travels. Her attentive listening and ability to respond made him feel valued and understood. It was a simple exchange, yet it carried weight, bridging the gap between two different worlds. As the lunch continued, the tycoon spoke more about his life in Japan. He described the challenges of his work, the long hours, and the constant travel. He talked about his love for quiet moments, simple pleasures, and meaningful connections. The waitress listened without interruption, responding with gentle nods and occasional remarks in Japanese that showed she understood and cared. Her presence made the dining experience comfortable and personal. The restaurant buzzed with activity, but around the table where the tycoon sat, there was a calm and pleasant atmosphere. Other guests noticed the difference, sensing that he was not just another customer. The waitress had created a connection that went beyond words, one that made him feel seen and respected. Her patience and attention to detail had transformed what could have been an ordinary meal into a memorable experience. After lunch, the tycoon returned to his room with a sense of contentment. He felt grateful that someone had taken the time to understand him. He reflected on how small gestures, like speaking in one's native language and paying attention to personal preferences, could have a profound impact. It reminded him of the importance of kindness and understanding in a world that often moved too quickly. The waitress, meanwhile, continued her shift, serving guests with a smile and quiet efficiency. She felt proud of the role she had played in making the tycoon's stay more comfortable. She realized that her ability to communicate in Japanese had not only helped him but had also inspired respect among her colleagues. They had seen the difference it made and started to pay more attention to how they interacted with guests. Later in the afternoon, the tycoon requested to meet with the hotel manager. He wanted to personally thank the staff for their efforts, especially the waitress who had been so attentive. The manager, pleased but curious, arranged a brief meeting. The tycoon expressed his gratitude, highlighting the waitress's skill, patience, and professionalism. He explained how her ability to speak Japanese had turned a potentially stressful stay into a comfortable and pleasant experience. The manager listened carefully, nodding and taking notes. He realized that the young waitress's actions had gone beyond her normal duties. She had provided personalized service, created a meaningful connection, and enhanced the reputation of the hotel. The manager promised to recognize her contributions, understanding that her efforts deserved acknowledgement. Back in the restaurant, the waitress continued to serve guests, unaware of the recognition she was about to receive. She focused on her work with dedication, ensuring that each guest felt attended to and valued. Her mind occasionally wandered to the tycoon and the brief conversations they had shared. She felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that she had made a difference, even in a small way. As evening approached, the hotel lobby became busier with arrivals and departures. The tycoon returned from his outings, looking forward to a quiet dinner. He was greeted warmly by the staff, and his eyes searched for the familiar face of the waitress. When he saw her, a genuine smile crossed his face. He approached her and spoke a few words in Japanese, expressing his appreciation for her help throughout the day. The waitress responded with a smile, happy to assist once again. She guided him to a table, taking care to ensure everything met his preferences. The tycoon relaxed, enjoying the calm environment and the comfort of being understood. The staff, observing the interaction, felt inspired by the way language and attentiveness could create a positive experience for guests. Throughout the evening, the tycoon and the waitress shared stories and simple conversations in Japanese. He spoke about his hometown, his favorite foods, and the places he had visited. She listened with interest, occasionally asking questions that showed genuine curiosity. Their conversation was natural, respectful, and warm. For the first time during his trip, the tycoon felt a sense of ease and connection in a foreign country. Other guests noticed the friendly interaction, sensing the respect and understanding between the two. The tycoon, usually reserved and careful, appeared more relaxed and open. The waitress's presence had not only made him comfortable but had also demonstrated the power of empathy and effective communication. As the day ended, the tycoon returned to his room feeling content and at peace. He reflected on the importance of being understood and appreciated, realizing that even small gestures could leave a lasting impact. The waitress, meanwhile, finished her shift, feeling quietly proud of the difference she had made. Her efforts had gone beyond routine service, creating a connection that mattered deeply to someone from another culture. The first full day at the hotel had started with confusion and miscommunication but ended with understanding, respect, and a sense of accomplishment. The tycoon felt reassured that he could navigate his stay comfortably, while the waitress felt fulfilled by her role in making it possible. Both knew that this experience had laid the groundwork for something meaningful, and the story of their interaction was just beginning. The bond created that day would influence the days to come, showing that empathy, patience, and the willingness to help could bridge even the widest gaps in culture and language. The next morning, the Japanese tycoon woke up feeling calm and focused. After the events of the previous day, he realized that this hotel stay might turn out to be better than he had expected. He dressed carefully, checked his schedule, and prepared for a series of meetings and appointments that awaited him. Despite the busy day ahead, he looked forward to breakfast, knowing that the waitress would be there to help him communicate his preferences and make the experience smooth. As he entered the restaurant, the young waitress greeted him with a warm smile. She had been preparing for her shift and had already set the tables carefully. She noticed him immediately and walked over politely, bowing slightly. In Japanese, she asked if he would like his usual breakfast, and he responded with a nod and a quiet word of thanks. The small exchange felt natural and comfortable, like a bridge connecting two people from different worlds. The tycoon took a seat and watched as the staff moved efficiently around the room. Despite the busy morning, there was a calm rhythm in the restaurant, a sense of order and attention to detail. He felt at ease, knowing that the waitress understood him and would make sure everything went smoothly. He noticed the little things she did, adjusting the chair slightly, refilling his cup at the right moment, and anticipating his needs without being asked. The conversation between the tycoon and the waitress began slowly, at first focusing on simple topics. He mentioned his travels, the places he had seen, and the small joys he found in experiencing new cultures. The waitress listened attentively, asking gentle questions in Japanese to understand more. The tycoon smiled, realizing how rare it was to find someone willing to listen so carefully. Her patience and attention created a feeling of respect and understanding that he had not felt in other hotels or foreign countries. As breakfast continued, the tycoon began to open up more. He spoke about his family, his experiences in the business world, and the challenges of leading a company with so many responsibilities. The waitress responded thoughtfully, acknowledging his points and sharing her own perspectives when appropriate. Though she was careful not to overstep, her presence and communication made the tycoon feel that he was not alone in this unfamiliar place. Around them, other guests and staff began to notice the interaction. The tycoon, usually reserved, appeared relaxed and engaged. The waitress's ability to speak Japanese allowed for a flow of conversation that made the breakfast feel personal and meaningful. It was clear that her actions had more impact than just serving food. She had created a connection built on understanding, empathy, and attention to detail. After breakfast, the tycoon decided to take a walk around the hotel grounds. He appreciated the serene gardens, the clean pathways, and the quiet elegance of the hotel architecture. The waitress, finishing her morning duties, glanced out of the window and saw him walking thoughtfully. She felt a small sense of pride, knowing that she had contributed to his comfort and relaxation. Later in the day, the tycoon returned to his room to prepare for a video conference with colleagues in Japan. Despite being far from home, he felt connected and focused, a result of the small comforts provided by the hotel and the assistance of the waitress. He reflected on how communication could change experiences and how empathy, even in small gestures, could create trust and understanding. The waitress, meanwhile, had a quiet moment during a break. She reflected on her work and the impact of speaking someone's language. She realized that her small effort had transformed a potentially stressful experience into a pleasant one for the tycoon. She felt a sense of pride but remained humble, knowing that she was simply doing her best to help. During lunch, the tycoon returned to the restaurant, and once again, the waitress guided him to his preferred table. The conversation this time went deeper. He shared stories from his early career, the lessons he had learned, and the importance of patience and persistence. The waitress listened with focus and responded in ways that showed understanding, creating a genuine exchange. Her ability to anticipate his preferences and respond with empathy allowed the tycoon to feel completely comfortable in a foreign environment. Other staff members watched quietly, taking note of the effectiveness of language and attentive service. The interaction highlighted the importance of understanding guests beyond simple words. The tycoon, in turn, appreciated the effort and care that had been shown, realizing that kindness and attention to detail mattered more than any luxury or decoration. As the afternoon progressed, the tycoon had a series of appointments at the hotel, including meetings with potential business partners. Despite the busy schedule, he felt a calm focus, knowing that his needs were understood and managed. The waitress's earlier efforts had a lasting impact on his mood and confidence, allowing him to handle the day with clarity. In the evening, the tycoon returned to the restaurant for dinner. The waitress greeted him warmly and guided him to his table, noting the small details that made the dining experience seamless. They spoke in Japanese, sharing thoughts about the day, observations about the city, and reflections on the importance of understanding and communication. The tycoon laughed at a few light-hearted remarks, feeling a sense of comfort he had rarely experienced while traveling. The staff around them noticed the warmth of the interaction. It was clear that the tycoon felt respected and valued, and that the waitress's attentiveness had created a positive environment. Other guests began to realize that the connection between the two went beyond ordinary service. It was a genuine interaction, built on empathy and care. After dinner, the tycoon returned to his room feeling satisfied. He reflected on the day and the difference that understanding, patience, and effective communication could make. He knew that the waitress had transformed his experience, creating a sense of comfort and belonging that went beyond words. The waitress finished her shift, feeling quietly proud of her contribution. She understood that her role had not been just to serve food, but to make someone feel understood and respected. The bond created between her and the tycoon had grown stronger, based on mutual respect and human connection. As night fell, the hotel settled into quiet. The tycoon felt at peace, knowing that he had someone who could understand him in this foreign environment. The waitress, at home after her long day, thought about the impact of her actions and felt satisfaction in knowing that her simple effort had created a meaningful experience. The day had been long, but it had been filled with understanding, respect, and connection. The bond between the tycoon and the waitress continued to develop. Their interactions were simple yet significant, highlighting the importance of empathy, patience, and communication. The experience had taught both of them valuable lessons. For the tycoon, the power of being understood. For the waitress, the impact of small gestures and genuine attention. As the story of their connection unfolded, it became clear that this was more than just a hotel stay. It was a human story about respect, understanding, and the power of bridging cultures through kindness and communication. The events of the day laid the foundation for deeper interactions and a lasting impression that neither the tycoon nor the waitress would forget. Through the day's experiences, the tycoon grew more comfortable, confident, and at ease. The waitress, in turn, felt empowered by her ability to make a difference. The small bridge created by speaking a common language had turned a foreign and potentially stressful experience into something memorable and meaningful. The day ended with a sense of connection and understanding that would carry into the days to come, shaping both of their experiences in profound ways. The next morning, the Japanese tycoon woke early and looked forward to a day without stress. He had started to feel comfortable at the hotel, largely because of the young waitress who had helped him so much. Her understanding and patience had made a huge difference, and he was eager to continue his stay with that same sense of ease. He dressed carefully and prepared for breakfast, thinking about how someone so young could have such a big impact. As he entered the restaurant, the waitress was already busy arranging tables and checking that everything was in order. She noticed him immediately and greeted him warmly, bowing politely. In Japanese, she asked if he wanted his usual breakfast, and he nodded, a small smile crossing his face. The exchange was simple but meaningful, creating a comfort that he had not felt in other hotels. The familiarity of speaking his native language, even far from home, gave him a sense of calm and reassurance. During breakfast, the tycoon spoke about the city he was visiting. He described the sights, the culture, and the little things he noticed as he walked around. The waitress listened carefully, responding in Japanese to show that she understood and was interested. Her attention made him feel respected and valued. The conversation flowed naturally, and he realized how important it was to feel understood, especially in a foreign environment. Other staff members observed the interaction with curiosity. They noticed the difference that a single person who could communicate effectively could make. The tycoon, usually quiet and reserved, seemed more relaxed and open. The waitress's ability to anticipate his needs and respond appropriately had transformed the atmosphere of the restaurant. What could have been a routine breakfast became a moment of genuine connection. After finishing his meal, the tycoon went for a short walk in the hotel garden. The quiet paths and neatly maintained flowers gave him a sense of peace. He reflected on how the waitress's small actions had created a big impact on his stay. It reminded him that attention to detail, empathy, and patience could turn an ordinary experience into something remarkable. Meanwhile, the waitress continued her work in the restaurant. She served other guests with the same care and attention, but her thoughts often drifted to the tycoon. She felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that her efforts had made someone's stay more comfortable and pleasant. She realized that simple gestures, like speaking someone's language and listening carefully, could create meaningful connections. Later, the tycoon returned to his room to prepare for a meeting with potential business partners. Even during his busy day, he felt a sense of confidence and calm. The assistance he had received from the waitress had allowed him to start his day without frustration or stress. He reflected on how small acts of understanding and kindness could create trust and make interactions smoother. When lunchtime arrived, the tycoon returned to the restaurant. The waitress guided him to his preferred table and took his order with the same attention to detail as before. They spoke in Japanese, discussing topics ranging from his favorite foods to stories about his travels. Each conversation deepened the connection between them. The tycoon found himself sharing thoughts he normally kept private, and the waitress responded with genuine interest and respect. The staff observed quietly, inspired by the natural rapport between the two. It became clear that the interaction was more than ordinary service. It was a human connection based on understanding, respect, and care. Guests in the restaurant also sensed the warmth and professionalism, realizing that the experience was personal and thoughtful. As the day progressed, the tycoon had several appointments in the hotel, including meetings with associates and potential business partners. Despite the busy schedule, he felt a calm focus and confidence that he had not expected. The assistance and understanding he had received from the waitress earlier in the day had set a positive tone for everything that followed. Her presence had created an environment where he could concentrate fully, knowing that his needs were understood and taken care of. In the evening, the tycoon returned to the restaurant for dinner. The waitress welcomed him warmly and guided him to his favorite table. They spoke in Japanese, sharing thoughts about the day, the city, and their experiences. The conversation was comfortable and natural. The tycoon laughed at a few lighthearted comments, feeling a sense of ease he had not experienced in foreign countries before. Her patience and attention to detail made the meal a peaceful and enjoyable experience. Other guests and staff noticed the positive interaction. It was evident that the tycoon felt respected and valued, and that the waitress's efforts had created a welcoming and comfortable environment. The human connection between the two was clear, and it highlighted the power of empathy, communication, and genuine care. After dinner, the tycoon returned to his room feeling satisfied. He reflected on how much of a difference small acts of understanding and attention could make. The waitress had turned a potentially stressful stay into a series of pleasant and meaningful interactions. He realized that kindness, patience, and the ability to communicate effectively were more important than any luxury or decoration. The waitress finished her shift, feeling quietly proud of her work. She had gone beyond routine service, creating a genuine connection with someone from another culture. She knew that her actions had made a significant impact, and that the tycoon's experience had been transformed by her attention and empathy. Her efforts had been simple, but they carried great meaning. As the night settled, the hotel grew quiet. The tycoon felt a sense of calm, knowing that he could navigate his stay comfortably. The waitress, at home after a long day, thought about the importance of her work and the difference that small gestures could make. She felt fulfillment in knowing that she had contributed to someone's comfort and well-being, creating a meaningful experience in a foreign place. The day had begun with the tycoon feeling cautious and uncertain, but it ended with him feeling respected, understood, and at ease. The waitress had played a crucial role in making this possible, and their interactions continued to build trust and connection. The bond created through patience, empathy, and attentive communication had grown stronger, highlighting the impact of human understanding in every interaction. By the end of the day, both the tycoon and the waitress had learned valuable lessons. He had discovered the power of being understood and the comfort it brought, while she had seen the influence of her efforts on someone else's experience. Their connection was quiet but meaningful, forming the foundation for a lasting impression. The events of the day demonstrated that even in a foreign environment, genuine human connection could create warmth, understanding, and trust. The tycoon, reflecting on the day, felt that the hotel had become more than just a place to stay. It was a space where he felt valued and understood, thanks to the patience and skill of the waitress. She had not only provided excellent service but had also created a bond built on respect and communication. The experience would remain in his memory as a reminder of the importance of empathy and understanding. The waitress, reflecting on her day, felt a quiet satisfaction in the knowledge that her actions had made a difference. She had taken a simple skill, speaking Japanese, and used it to create comfort and connection. Her efforts had been meaningful, and the recognition she received, though subtle, reinforced the value of her dedication. The day ended with a sense of fulfillment, a reminder that small gestures could create significant impact in the lives of others. Through the day's experiences, the tycoon and the waitress continued to strengthen their bond. Their interactions, simple yet profound, highlighted the importance of human understanding, empathy, and communication. The hotel had become a place where connection mattered, and their story served as a quiet but powerful example of the difference that attention, care, and genuine interest could make in the lives of others. The morning of the final day at the hotel began with a quiet sense of anticipation. The Japanese tycoon had grown comfortable in the environment, largely due to the young waitress who had made his stay pleasant and stress-free. He dressed carefully and prepared to have one last breakfast in the hotel, knowing that this day would be special in its own way. He reflected on the past few days, realizing how much of a difference simple understanding and care had made. As he entered the restaurant, the waitress greeted him warmly, bowing politely. She asked in Japanese if he wanted his usual breakfast, and he responded with a nod and a small smile. The comfort of speaking in his native language, even far from home, had become an important part of his daily routine. The familiarity brought him calm and reassured him that even in a foreign place, he could feel at home. During breakfast, the conversation between the tycoon and the waitress flowed naturally. He spoke about his experiences over the past few days, sharing what he had noticed about the hotel, the staff, and the city. He appreciated the care that the hotel had shown, but he emphasized that it was the waitress's attention and understanding that had made the most difference. Her ability to listen, communicate, and anticipate his needs had created a sense of comfort that no luxury could provide. The waitress listened carefully, responding with thoughtful remarks in Japanese. She smiled quietly, happy to see that her efforts had been meaningful. She had simply done her job to the best of her ability, but the impact it had on the tycoon went far beyond routine service. The breakfast became a meaningful exchange, a time for connection and reflection. As the meal ended, the tycoon requested to speak briefly with the hotel manager. He wanted to personally thank the staff for their exceptional service, especially the waitress who had helped him so much. The manager arranged the meeting promptly, and the tycoon expressed his gratitude sincerely. He spoke about the professionalism, patience, and attentiveness of the waitress, explaining how her ability to communicate in Japanese had transformed his stay. The manager listened attentively, impressed by the thoughtful recognition and acknowledging that her actions went above and beyond expectations. Back in the restaurant, the waitress continued her duties, unaware of the meeting that had taken place. She focused on her work with dedication, ensuring that each guest felt attended to and valued. She had become a quiet source of comfort for the tycoon, and her attention to detail had set an example for the rest of the staff. The manager's recognition would later confirm the significance of her contribution, but for now, she remained focused on providing the best service she could. Later in the morning, the tycoon prepared to check out of the hotel. He had a few hours before his departure, and he wanted to take a moment to appreciate the experience. As he passed through the lobby, he noticed the staff moving efficiently, each one attentive and professional. But it was the young waitress who caught his attention. She approached him politely, bowing slightly, and he smiled warmly. In Japanese, he expressed his gratitude once again. The words were simple, but the meaning was profound. He thanked her for her patience, her understanding, and her ability to make him feel at ease in a foreign place. The waitress, touched by his sincerity, responded humbly, acknowledging that she had simply done her best to help. The exchange was quiet yet deeply meaningful, a moment of genuine human connection that would remain with both of them. The tycoon reached into his bag and handed the waitress a small envelope. She looked at him in surprise, opening it carefully. Inside was a note expressing gratitude and a generous tip, along with a brief message encouraging her to continue her dedication and professionalism. She felt a mix of surprise and pride, knowing that her simple actions had been recognized in such a meaningful way. The gesture reinforced the impact of her efforts and highlighted the value of patience, empathy, and communication. The manager approached and joined the interaction, offering additional words of praise for the waitress. He acknowledged how her actions had not only improved the tycoon's experience but had also inspired the rest of the staff. The young waitress remained humble, grateful for the recognition but focused on the satisfaction of having helped someone in a meaningful way. As the tycoon prepared to leave the hotel, he reflected on the importance of human connection. He had traveled extensively, experienced luxury accommodations around the world, and met countless staff and guests. Yet, it was the genuine care and understanding of one person that had left the strongest impression. He realized that empathy, patience, and attention to detail were qualities that could transform experiences and create lasting memories. The waitress, watching him depart, felt a sense of fulfillment. She understood that her simple efforts had made a significant difference in someone's life. Her ability to communicate in Japanese had bridged a cultural gap, created comfort, and established a connection that transcended language. She knew that this experience would stay with her as a reminder of the importance of kindness, patience, and understanding. After the tycoon left, the hotel staff reflected on the events of the past few days. The young waitress's actions had set an example of professionalism, attentiveness, and empathy. The positive impact on the tycoon had been noticed by management and colleagues alike. Her efforts had demonstrated that small gestures, thoughtful communication, and genuine care could create memorable experiences and build lasting impressions. The story of the tycoon and the waitress spread quietly among the staff, serving as inspiration for others. They saw that beyond routine tasks and daily responsibilities, there was value in connecting with guests on a personal level. The bond that had formed between the two highlighted the power of empathy and the difference that a single individual could make in someone else's life. In the days that followed, the hotel continued to receive guests, but the example set by the young waitress remained. She had shown that attention, patience, and understanding could create comfort and trust, leaving a lasting impression on those she served. The tycoon's experience became a story shared among staff, a quiet reminder of the significance of human connection and the importance of approaching every interaction with care. For the tycoon, the trip had been memorable not only for the business meetings but for the personal experience he had at the hotel. The presence of someone who could understand and communicate with him had turned an ordinary stay into something meaningful. The lessons of empathy, patience, and the value of small gestures would remain with him, shaping his future travels and interactions. For the waitress, the experience reinforced her belief in the importance of doing her best, listening carefully, and approaching each interaction with genuine interest and care. She realized that her role went beyond serving food. She had the ability to make someone feel understood, respected, and comfortable. Her quiet dedication had created a bond that would be remembered long after the stay ended. The story concluded with both the tycoon and the waitress having gained something valuable. He had experienced the comfort of being understood and cared for, and she had learned the power of her actions to create meaningful connections. The interaction was simple, yet its impact was profound, highlighting the human capacity for empathy, kindness, and communication. As the hotel returned to its usual rhythm, the young waitress continued her work, confident in the knowledge that her efforts had mattered. The tycoon moved on to new destinations, carrying the memory of someone who had made a difference in a foreign place. The connection between them was quiet but enduring, a testament to the power of human understanding and the lasting impact of even the smallest gestures. The experience at the hotel remained a defining moment for both of them. It was a reminder that true connection comes not from wealth or luxury, but from attention, care, and the willingness to understand another person. In a world that often moves too quickly, their story stood as a simple yet powerful example of how empathy and thoughtful communication can create a lasting impression, bridging cultures and making life richer for everyone involved.